Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're delving into the fascinating world of symbolism and how it can reveal profound insights that go beyond written words. Throughout history, many ancient texts, including the Bible, have used symbolism to convey ideas that transcend our everyday senses. In this video, we'll explore how the Bible, often misunderstood as a history book, is in fact an alchemical treasure of hidden wisdom. Let's begin by understanding the power of symbolism. Symbolism are like keys to deeper meanings, and they allow us to access knowledge that go beyond the literal. They speak to our intuition and tap into our subconscious mind. Think about it. Symbols are everywhere, from ancient cave paintings, modern logos. They serve as a universal language that communicate across cultures and generations. Now let's shift our focus to the Bible. While many view it as a historical or religious text, it's more than that. It's a masterpiece, concealing profound truths beyond its stories and symbols. The Bible's true essence lies in its allegorical and symbolic content, guiding us on a journey of personal transformation. One of the most intriguing symbols in inner alchemy is the serpent. In alchemy, the serpent represents the serpentine force, a concept deeply woven into the fabric of nature. Remarkably, the Fibonacci sequence, a mathematical marvel found throughout nature, connects to the serpentine force. The numbers in the sequence eventually reduce to 8, which is the number symbolizing balance, transformation, balancing spiritual and intellectual realms, ultimately seeking union with divine. 8 also deals with cyclical nature of existence. Now, if you look here at the Fibonacci sequence, when you add all of this up, it comes out to the number 8. And if you look here, you notice that you see the number 144. So if you watched the first video we did, we talked about how the force was the mind of God, it was the breath of God, it was the hand of God, it was the architect of the universe. But if you notice here, the number 144 is here. So it's showing you that the number 144 is a frequency, because the force is a frequency. It contains light and sound. It's the mind of God. So it's basically explaining that there would be people throughout the ages that would embody a frequency, which is the mind of God. Since we know that it is a frequency, then ultimately it's a wave. And this is what we're noticing all throughout creation. Here's a serpent mound in Ohio. We notice the shape of the mounds. They were explaining a story. They were talking about the life force that exists all throughout nature, throughout Mother Earth, and that resides in each and every one of us. We also see this pattern in our hair. If you look here, all the different patterns of hair have that same shape. Our DNA also has that same shape. And a lot of times when you hear them talking about, like our junk DNA, it's basically explaining that each and every one of us was given a measure of faith. And we learned in the first video that in the beginning, it was just all potential. Everything started from a potential, from a thought, right? And then it expanded outside of itself. So basically, when this force resides in you, each and every one of us has it. But how we use it, right? Are we using the force to its full potential? Right? And we're not using it to its full potential. So this is what they're saying: at a certain time, people would start activating that so-called junk DNA. It's not really junk DNA. It's you activating the force within you to its full potential. Next, let's consider the serpent on the cross, a symbol found in various ancient cultures. It represents rebirth and transformation. This symbol transcends religious boundaries, reminding us of our innate ability to overcome challenges and evolve spiritually. And if we look here, we see that same cross is one of the constellation's crooks. Basically, the cross is basically showing the masculine and the feminine, the polarity between the two, because we know that the force is comprised of masculine and feminine. So that's what the cross was symbolizing. Just as a snake sheds its skin, we must shed our past over and over and over again. It's basically going over the transformation that must happen in each and every one of our lives, the death and rebirth, leaving what no longer serves our higher purpose and transforming. Death and rebirth. That's the cycle of life, death and rebirth. Now, let's explore the yin-yang symbol, which represents the duality and balance within ourselves. Now, if we look here at this yin and yang, the dark side represents the feminine principle, and the white side represents the masculine. Now, basically, with the white here, it's basically saying that the feminine acknowledges the masculine. And here, it's basically showing you that the masculine acknowledges the feminine. And these forces, they work together. These principles work together, none above the other. This force that came out of the primordial womb, the womb of creation, it was in perfect harmony, masculine and feminine. Now, if you look here, this is the constellation Pisces. If you look at this one, they both represent the same thing, masculine and feminine. Pisces is the constellation that is about sensitivity, kindness, creativity, great compassion. That's what Pisces represents. Both of these symbols emphasize the importance of balance and harmony in our personal growth and spiritual journey. And you can look here, you see the same thing. These symbols represent that same life force. This is the constellation Cancer, and this is known as the 6-9. If you take a look at it, it's basically showing you the masculine and feminine principles. And they call this like the dragon. And in my other video, I talked about why they call the force the dragon, because when the force meets back with spirit, it gets wings, the feathers. See, all these cultures, they have feathers everywhere. That represents spirit. So the shape of the force, which looks like a snake, but it's really a frequency, it's a wave. It looks like a dragon. So all of this stuff is symbolic, okay? So the 6-9, that's in Cancer. And I'm going to talk about Cancer in another video a little bit more further, because this one is really important. Now, you also see it in Leo. Basically, the circle, which is the feminine, and what comes from it, right? This symbolism is everywhere. Everything in nature speaks of this force. which is in you and I, which is in the animals. This force runs through the ley lines, the dragon lines. This force is everywhere. And symbolism is very important. Let's even look at music. Everything speaks of this force. Here you have the circle, and then you have the line. The circle is the feminine, and the line is the masculine. Everything comes from the universal womb, right? Let's even look at the whole note, right? The womb. You see it everywhere. We talked about in that first video that it is sound and light. Now let's move on to the Ouroboros. A serpent eating its own tail is another powerful symbol. It signifies eternal cyclical renewal, much like the cycles of personal transformation. So when this force came out of the primordial waters, that was the beginning of time. It was basically showing you the cycle of time, the cycles of life. We see it all throughout creation. They have this one movie on Prime. It's called The Wheel of Time. And so, basically Hollywood is even showing us these things, but we have to understand symbolism. Here's the Ouroboros again, and here you have the masculine and the feminine. Basically, this was a circle, which represented the womb of creation, but then it became two, masculine and feminine, which is really one if you really add it. And I should put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed, and he will bruise you in the head. So let's take a look at this one. Genesis 3:15 is a symbolic representation of the inner struggle and transformation that individuals undergo in their quest for spiritual awakening and self-realization. It emphasizes the idea that through inner work and spiritual practices, one can overcome the ego's influence and align with the higher, more divine aspect of ourselves. Let's take a look here. We all know the chapter in the Bible where it talks about how Moses, an Aaron's snake, was able to swallow Pharaoh's snake. Now, this is basically telling a story. Let's take a look. This is Apep. It's the serpent, the enemy of the sun god Ra in ancient Egyptian religion. But basically what's happening here is it's showing you the force, right? The force, the life force, that when it's not used when it's not being led divinely, that it can be destructive. And we spoke about this in another video. So that's why you see this character here cutting off the head, which goes back to Genesis 3:15. That there would be a people who would be able to overcome their beast nature, basically that carnal side, right? And be able to move in the divine mind. So when we go back to Moses' story, the reason why Moses and Aaron's snake was able to devour Pharaoh's, because it's showing you Genesis 3:15. Moses had a consciousness, awareness out of water. Okay, it's like the force, it comes out of water, the divine mind. Moses embodied the divine mind, right? He went to God, the God within, to find answers. Pharaoh asked the sorcerers and magicians. He went to outside counselors instead of asking God within for direction and guidance. So it's showing you here that when you go within, you are led from the divine God in you for direction and guidance, you now become the head and not the tail. Let's go here to the constellation Ophiuchus. This is what everyone is calling the 13th constellation. And if you look here, we've talked about this one several times on the channel. So basically what's happening here is the man is he has his foot on the scorpion, right? And then he is wrestling with the snake, right? So when we look here, we're understanding that this man is wrestling with his own nature, right? Ego versus divine mind. And he gets the victory. Now, let's explain something here about a scorpion. A scorpion, when its back is against the wall, right? When it's in danger, it will sting its own self until it dies. So here you have a deeper story that's going on here. There would be people who would actually take on the spiritual journey, deal with themselves, deal with their egos, master their ego. The ego is there to protect you, but it can go out of control. These people will be able to master their nature and become victorious. This was the new man, the 13th man. So you have the 12, but then you have that new man. And a lot of times when NASA finds out these things, it's exactly when the Most High wants these things to be found out. It's basically saying that humanity has not reached that point where we have discovered certain truths. But now we are here. We're at this point where we are ready. Collectively, so many people are waking up. They're dealing with their ego. They're getting it in check. You know, the pasthood traumas that we've had, we're no longer sweeping them under the door and in denial. You're dealing with yourself. You're crucifying this flesh. That's what this is showing you. You're crucifying it. There has to be a renewal from the inside. There can't just be a renewal on the outside. We change habits, we change some things, right? Okay, we don't do this, we don't do that. No, this change has to come from the inside. It says the Lord will make you the head, not the tail. If you pay attention to the commands of the Lord your God that I give you this day and carefully follow them, you will always be at the top and never at the bottom. How many times I will read this and not really understanding, it's asking us to be led by our inner GPS. Tune back in to our inner GPS. This is how spirit guides you. One of the things that Israel had a problem with is that they did not want to be led by the divine. They wanted a king, and this is when Saul came about. They needed something outside of themselves. They needed something outside of themselves. They did not want to be led by their inner GPS, their inner compass. As a matter of fact, even nowadays, if you say, like I heard from the Most High, or the Most High, you feel an impression on your heart to do something, how many of us just like blow it off? Or when people say that, we just blow them off. Now, true enough, you have to learn to hear that inner GPS. And also you have to understand how it communicates with you. One of the ways that the spirit communicates with you is through symbolism, like your dreams. It speaks to us through symbolism. It speaks to us through impressions, through dreams, through visions, through synchronicities, right? And so that's why I'm showing you guys today symbolism. Symbolism passes the conscious mind and goes straight to the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind can decode symbolism. If you're not in resistance, it can break it down. But a lot of times we're in resistance. So let's look here, another symbolism, the eye of Horus. And you can see how it lines up with our brain. You can just take a look at this. The eye is basically showing you the brain. So the ancient Egyptians believed that the eye had healing powers. So when you were able to merge heaven and earth, now you were protected. Here's that hedge of protection that we spoke about a few months back. You would have protection because you're being divinely led, which takes us here. The ancient Egyptians believed that this eye had healing power and protective powers, and it divided into 6 parts. Each part represents a mathematical fraction and one of the 6 senses. So if you're looking here, and this is where we get the clairs. These are like your spiritual gifts, right? Smell, sight, thought, hearing, taste, touch. These are your 6 senses. So once you merge that heaven and earth within yourself, right? You now are able to see things in the spirit. You can smell. Some people can smell stuff and associate it with something, right? The way you think, the impressions that you get, the downloads. Some people can hear in the spirit. And I'm going to tell you something. This is one of the things, and y'all comment down below and let me know if y'all are experiencing this. It's like you can hear people's thoughts now. I have had some dreams where I've heard whole conversations being had about me, because this is what the force does, what the Holy Spirit does. It's going to show you all truth. It's going to show you. There's a lot of people, y'all, that's denying the power. They learn, but they deny the power. This power is real. It will show you. Let's not forget the atom, a symbol of our connection to the universe and the idea that we are made in the image of the divine. It reflects the belief that we are a microcosm of the macrocosm, a divine spark within the vast cosmos. So let's look here. Let's take a look at some more symbolism. So this is Japanese writing, and you see creation, you see the story of creation all in their writing. So let's take a look at the first part, right? So all of these mean something. We're just going to focus on this top part. So here, the 1, right? The 1, that means the beginning. 1, the beginning. And then the 2 going across means the end. And then you have the 3 and the 4 right here. And that means the tree of death and transformation, of knowledge, evil, desire, and resistance. And then you have the 5, which is the root of the tree. So basically you see here that even in the writing, the letters, the formation of the letters, it all speaks of the divine. And what happened is we're not even conscious of this now, right? We're not conscious of this now. But if we were conscious, imagine how powerful that would be to the subconscious mind when you were conscious of, when you were writing, remembering creation, remembering who you are. Everything in this system wants you to depend on something outside of yourself, right? Because if you're depending on something outside of yourself, then you're going to continue to create for their system. You're going to continue to depend on their system. And they can keep you in fear and keep you in oppression. I want you all to take a long look at this, at what I have on the screen here, because I've been saying for a while that the Hebrew alphabets are the constellations. Everything is oneness. In my first video, if you didn't see it, go back, and it talked about how the Hebrew alphabets crystallized and took on form. And I'll talk about this, how it took on form. I want you guys just to study this for a while. Just study this for a while. Screenshot it, whatever you need to do. and then go back and watch my first video. Now, let's take a look at the human body. So when I tell you that the constellations, they exist within you. This is not anything that's outside of you. As above, so below. These are energy places within your body. Each and every one of your bones, your organs, they all resonate with a Hebrew alphabet. They all resonate with a constellation. They all resonate with a musical sound, with a musical note. Your body was made to communicate with the divine. Your kidneys, your liver, they all have a frequency to them. Diseases, which is dis-ease in the body, it prevents you from tuning in to the frequency of the divine. Not to mention they're shooting out so much, things to block the frequency now, right? So you can't hear, right? And all these diseases, all this technology, and technology when it's used to without accountability is wrong, right? It's supposed to be balanced to everything. When I work with clients with Reiki healing, everywhere that you see these constellations is where we place our hands on the person's body. And if there's something that's blocking it, as the practitioner working with the client, you can feel it. This is the ministry of healing, laying on of hands. You can feel it when people are hurting in certain areas in their body, when they have things trapped, you can feel it. And then when you see the release, and they're so thankful. They're so thankful. Things that's been trapped for years and throughout their body in certain places. I had this one lady I worked with who had arthritis, and we just worked through. And after the session, she wasn't feeling any more pain. It was deep, and depending on where it is in the body, it'll let you know like what she's suffering with. When you have sciatica in the back, that's where you store all your emotions, right? And that's why a lot of people have sciatic pain in their back. The ministry of healing is serious. And when and it's something that you don't pursue, it pursues you. In that first video, I talked about how the force was the hand of God. So here you see the sun, right? Then the rays, you see all these different rays that's coming out. But if you take a close look at this, these are actually hands. These are actually hands. Everything comes from that circle. All the different colors, all the different rays, all the different variations in light come from that circle. And you see here on the caves, and here it is again. You see it here. And with the Nagas of ancient India, let's talk a little bit about this, because if you look here, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? You see the 7, right? And these represent the force. And but the Nagas is basically showing you that these were people who embodied this force, this consciousness, right? They embodied it. And there are people throughout all generations, all the ages, who have been able to embody this force, this 144 frequency, right? It's a consciousness. It's the Christ consciousness. Let's take a look at the sun. The sun is deep. So we have the ancient Egyptians called it Amen-Ra, right? And the name for the sun is actually the soul. It's like a play on words. So Amen, right? It means the inside God, which is this, right? And Ra was the external. Feminine, masculine. The inside God. So true transformation, guys, it starts from within. We create by first having a thought, and then we bring it into formation. Everything that you see in this earth came from a thought that we manifested. So we really have to take a look at the power of who we are. We can create something good for ourselves, or we can create something negative for ourselves. These symbols remind us that we are part of a grander design. In conclusion, symbolism is the language of the soul, and it can unlock hidden knowledge and insights that words alone cannot convey. The Bible and other ancient texts are rich with these symbols, guiding us on a path of inner alchemy and personal transformation. I encourage you to explore these symbols further, both in your spiritual journey and in your understanding of ancient texts. And as always, keep learning, keep growing, keep expanding. Keep seeking the deeper meanings hidden within the symbols of life. Thank you, namaste, and shalom.